Greetings, everyone. Hello, hello. Let's see, make sure we're running here. There we go. All right. Good to see all you guys again. It is almost the end of January in 2023. That's pretty impressive that 23 is moving as quickly as 22. So let's get started. I've got some questions here for us as usual. So let's just jump into it. Okay, first question comes from Kimberly Benjamin. What is the best way to launch a new product and get a lot of people talking about it? Business description and background question. I am a go-getter at heart. All day hustling team, no sleep as I sit here and think about ways I can educate people about my product while getting them to buy at the same time. I know there has to be a faster way than going from a salon to salon, hair show to hair show, and I'm open to any suggestions that will give me the momentum. I need to help scale the business as fast as possible. Cool. Well, Kimberly, what I'm a big fan of for promoting a new product is PR. How do you generate PR around your new product or service or whatever it is? This usually requires figuring out some sort of interesting story or interesting angle or tying it into current events. I had a theater business, as many of you know, back in Chicago. We had a fantastic PR and marketing team that promoted that for all the shows that went through all of our venues. We had 3 venues, like physical buildings, and we had one single PR and marketing team. And the name of the game really was tying in whatever it was that we were doing with whatever was going on in like the world in general, like from a conversation perspective. So another good example is the big hot dog. You guys have probably heard me talk about that. The big hot dog was completely PR, which was basically, for those of you who don't know, was a big giant hot dog that we sold online that people would buy and then use at parties and all that sort of stuff. And the more that we could talk about that and get it into the hands of people who can amplify that message, that was the best use of time. So like I totally agree. If you're just running from place to place and talking to one person at a time, that's not the most efficient use of your time. So you've got to identify who are your, for lack of a better word, influencers in your market that are going to be able to drive your message out to the world. I would sit down and make a list of that to begin with. Who are the people that if they started talking about what it is I'm doing, that the most people would hear about it. And then the other part of it is you mentioned getting them to buy. I've run into that problem too. Sometimes you get plenty of PR and sometimes you get plenty of people talking about it, but nobody will buy. So you have to take that into account when you're figuring stuff out. If you're putting it in front of people and you know they're hearing about it, but nobody's buying, you might have to go back to the drawing board and reevaluate what it is that you're offering. Are you offering it to the right people? Are you offering the right thing to those people? They have to be at a point when they're ready to spend money and wanting to spend money on whatever it is you're doing. And if they're not doing that, then you might need to evaluate, is this the right thing? And then you might need to tweak it. Cool. Next question. Rohit Gupta. What suggestion would you have to help me get more people and press to our grand opening of our new retail grocery store opening? We are a specialty international convenience and grocery store, brick and mortar location. Well, first off, what I would suggest is if you haven't already, contact all of your local civic people, your chambers of commerce, your local government folks. I don't know where you are. I mean, you might be in New York City, which is going to be a little bit, you're not going to get the mayor out for that probably, but you could probably get local people out, regardless of how big of a city you live in. But if you're in a medium-sized city, you might be able to get, all the kind of government folks and all those people involved. Try to get as many of them out as possible to some sort of grand opening event. do your ribbon cutting or that sort of stuff. Because then, get your local newspapers and all that to cover it. Again, I don't know how big of a city you're in, but regardless of how big a city, there's always kind of like these niches within a community that you'll be able to interface with. So even if it's, not specifically the whole entire, city, there's going to be specific folks too. So I'd say, so you've got to invite those people and you've got to get those people there. It's kind of like, again, who are your influencers? Who are the people who are going to be most influential within your community so that they'll tell other people? If there's literally local, online influencers in your community, get them there. If, depending on who your target market is, that may or may not be easier to find than others. So I would just sit down and make that list. A lot of times I think we don't spend enough time making a list. We need to actually make bullet pointed lists of these are the things that I'm going to do. These are the people I'm going to call. And when you sit down and stop for a second and write those things down, you actually realize, there's 30 or 40 people I could be talking to right now that I'm not, because I never really just sat down and figured it out. So that is that. Anna Fanska Ong. If you need to develop a business plan, would you hire someone or use an off-the-shelf software or do it yourself if this is your first time doing this? I designed a clear festival bag that lights up in 3 modes. I have sample products already. I need help on how to write a solid business plan for investors to help me launch it. Great question. So my suggestion as far as business plan goes is, for the most part, I present all of my deals from a spreadsheet, because that's all that really matters. It's the numbers that really matter. You need to be able to show that if you're able to produce the product for so much and you're able to sell to so many people based on some sort of marketing plan and all the statistics of if I contact people, if I contact this group of people in this group in this amount of numbers, and I get this response rate, all those sorts of assumptions. The easiest way to explain that stuff is just on a spreadsheet. And so I would recommend if you're not a spreadsheet whiz or haven't done anything like that before, I would recommend that you work with somebody to help you do that. I help people do that all the time, and if you want me to help, I'll gladly point you in the right direction or get you going, or get into it with you if you like. But yeah, the softwares, the off-the-shelf software, or like just kind of like the business plans that are like just a lot of narrative and stuff, I don't find that to be particularly useful as an investor, as somebody who's evaluating things for investment, because people can write all kinds of words. It's hard to make math not make sense, right? So if you make all the math on your spreadsheet and it makes sense, then that's a step in the right direction, because then you just really argue over the assumptions as opposed to does the math make sense. I actually just did this with another company out in, actually they're down in Guatemala City. They're launching a drone security company, and we're going through their models, and some of the models that we're discovering are like they just don't work the way that we envision them, because when you put the numbers down on paper, we're not producing the profit margins that we want. So then that forces us to go back to the drawing board and, okay, well, operationally, how would it be different? And then we update our models to make sure that we're building a sustainable business before we even start. And if you're trying to bring investors on, you better be able to show that you're building a sustainable business before you even start, as opposed to just, hey, I got this great idea and here's a product and people are going to buy a lot of it. Well, that's all fine and good, but you've got to build a business around it. So cool. So yeah, I would say get somebody to help you with that if you have not done that before, and we'll go from there. All right, Robin Turpin. How could I convince someone to partner or invest in my business as an artist? I'm an artist who helps people feel moments of calm through my oil paintings of sunsets. I know to sell more, I will need an e-commerce website linked to sell prints, originals, and other products. with my art on them, and my expertise is in the simply being the artist, not the business and tech side of business. How do you think I can convince someone to partner with me and do all that side of the business and we split the revenues? That's a great question. So I would say that you're going to have to bring more to the table than just the product. Because at the end of the day, you're the artist, so you're producing a product. You've developed some sort of thing that people maybe want to buy. So all that other business stuff that you're talking about, that's how the sale actually happens. So you need to contribute to that in some way. And you don't have to do all that stuff. I agree. You can find other people to help you with that. You can, like a partner like you're suggesting, is definitely doable. But the harder you make it for them, the less likely they're going to spend time on your project versus somebody else's project, right? Like if somebody like that can choose who do I want to work with? Well, I want to work with the one that's the easiest for me. So what you can do to help with that, I would say, is focus your attention not on setting all that stuff up, but driving a PR, driving your building your brand, right? Like you don't, and when I say building your brand, I mean like what is it that you do on a day-to-day basis that attracts attention, And I'm just making stuff up here, but let's say that the wording that you used was feeling moments of calm. Like maybe your shtick is that you do the opposite of moments of calm in order to get attention, and then it goes back down to like moments of calm, right? Like the reason that you're important. So I don't know. Like I'm imagining like some sort of digital campaign where you ride a shopping cart downstairs. You're not going to do this because you would get hurt. But I'm just saying, like, if you were like, I'm a moments of calm, like, artist and I produce these things, and now I'm riding down this thing down the stairs, people are going to pay attention to you, right? Because you did something crazy. So now you've got eyeballs on you. Your product is in front of people. Now all that logistical stuff and like business stuff that just needs to get done has a clear channel of why they do that work and how they get it sold. If you're really depending on someone to just come in and sell your stuff just because they want to sell your stuff, again, why is your stuff going to sell any easier than somebody else's? That is part of your job, is to determine how to make your product the most easily sellable, because otherwise your partner is not going to really, why would they split the revenue with you 50-50 if your thing is not unique enough to drive any in particular outcome, and they have to do all the work, right? So that would be kind of my thought, is you really got to figure out how to differentiate you and your product just from a brand and structure perspective, so that way then when you bring on your business side, they can amplify what you're doing from there. And again, a lot of this has to do with who's your audience too. So knowing who your audience is and who you're selling to also helps, because then it allows you to hone in and figure out really how to keep those people's attention or get those people's attention. Cool. Christine Ann's, how to go about rebranding process. I'm a residential realtor with Keller Williams. I have my own brand within Keller and need help knowing how to best brand it and market it. I have a team logo, the shortened branding initial and team logo with the brokerage. I have 2 nice signs that don't have that branding and nothing really flows right now. What would you suggest as to making sure my brand is on point? I am confused. Thanks. That's a great question. I guess I would ask, what's the purpose? Why does it matter? Because it sounds like maybe there's some disconnect between the brand isn't coherent, and isn't universal through all of your various ways in which you communicate with people. I would start from a why does it matter perspective. What is the actual objective? Are you trying to, if you're trying to drive more leads, the question would be, does having this unified brand and spending a lot of effort on trying to create this unified brand help you drive more leads? The answer might be yes. but I would want to know if it is yes, then I'd say, well, who are the people that you want to connect with? And then does your brand, the way that it is or the way that it could be, really actually connect with them? Is it worth that? Is it worth that effort? Yeah, I think it's those broader questions um, that make the difference. Because otherwise, it's just like, well, then just make the brand. Like if you're just talking about digital assets and logos and color schemes and all that, then just do it. At that point, there I don't. That's just a matter of just doing it and moving on to the next thing. But if you want to dig a little deeper, the real question is, who's your audience, and how do you make your brand resonate with that audience, and then roll it out across everything. I think might be the deeper question there. Okay, last question. Alex Wilkins, do you remember laying off seasonal employee? Oh, sorry. Do you recommend laying off seasonal employees or paying them during the slow times? We are a seasonal landscape business that suffers during the winter time because I have never really put together a winter business. We have one employee right now, and I try to get work for him, but he is inconsistent with how much he wants to work, and I want to be sure he will be there in the spring when I need him for the season. Thanks. So in my experience with seasonal businesses, if you have good people, it's best to figure out how to keep them around so that they feel comfortable and connected, and that you don't have to lose them or have the risk of losing them. So you said you haven't developed a winter business. I guess I would suggest maybe developing a winter business, at least enough just to keep this guy busy. But maybe there's other side businesses that are in the same area, like the guys who set up the Christmas lights, or I'm trying to think other things that happen during the winter. I don't know, there's probably 20 other things. But if you could just sell just enough to keep him busy, that might be a good idea in terms of, or have another strategy for him, or have another thing that you can actually kind of help him, coach him through, so that he can get through the winter, and know that you helped him, and that that you've kind of put him on a path so that he comes back to you in the spring. Either way, you should be deliberate about it. The idea of just like, unless of course you have unlimited supply of good labor, in which case then you just lay him off at the end of the season, and maybe he'll come back, maybe he won't, but you'll get somebody else. If that isn't the case, then you really should have some sort of plan, whether it's develop more winter business yourself so you can keep him around and keep paying him yourself, or if it's how you're going to coach him through the winter with other opportunities that you've set up for him. Opportunities that are good opportunities for the winter time, but are going to definitely end, and that he's not going to get poached by whoever he just ends up with during that period. I had a friend who did tours in Chicago. She was like on one of the boats in the river there, and she would give the tours. So that was the opposite, that she was busy, and same thing. She was busy in the summer, and then in the winter there was no work. So she was on her own, and that was always a difficult situation. The tour companies didn't really give her any guidance or help in that regard. So they had a lot of turnover, is what I'm saying. So yeah, if you don't take care of the people, if you don't give them guidance, or you don't give them an opportunity during that time, they will leave, potentially. Okay, cool. That is it for me. I am out. Thank you very much, everybody. Good to see you, and we'll see you next time.